going on, y'all? Welcome back to the chaos. If you're new here, I'm Ryan, and I actually have a 2008 Dodge Viper. You would never know it because one, it's missing from the Chaos Garage, but it's also been kind of missing off the channel for a bit now. But I actually do have some updates. Not sure how little or how much we have to update today, but we are actually headed to the shop to go check up on the car. So if you're new here, I'll get you up to speed. I have a 2008 Gen 4 Dodge Viper. So Gen 3, Gen 4 Vipers all have the same look, different motor, but the same look to them. So the front bumper, at least in my opinion, leaves a lot to be desired. That look at this point is just kind of dated. So we've actually tasked Toxic Customs with taking a Gen 5 front bumper and grafting it to our Gen 4. So I think it looks tremendously better, but there's been an ongoing saga with them just trying to get it done. So I've got the, if you remember from the last video, I've got the AutoForm spoiler to go drop off. So that'll be like kind of our little cherry on top when we get the car back. So they're adding that as well, but we're gonna go drop that off and then hopefully get some updates. So let's load up and head out. So in the last video, we actually unboxed this beautiful spoiler, but it's time to box it back up and drop it off at the shop. As we're headed to the shop, I'm just sitting here reflecting on the time spent with the car. And I know it seems silly, but after the Viper's always been my dream car, so it took forever to acquire it. And now that I've got it, I feel like I've been without it. So I'm just sitting here thinking about all the good times with the car, as cheesy as it sounds.
It's been 84 years.
Just got the Toxic Customs, so let's walk in there and hopefully they got some good news and a lot of progress for us to check out. Just got finished checking out the car, and we actually were able to like test fit the spoiler up on the car itself, and man, that looks killer. But about to run home and then we'll give you the lowdown on where we are on the project and how much more is left to do and just kind of where we stand. Well, we're back in the Chaos Garage, and I'm very excited for the project, but man, the progress, I wish I had more to update you on, but the progress is going slow. So, I mean, I guess the good news is there's still progress, but it's creeping along. I believe in the last video, we were going over like how the bumper would actually mount as far as like the inner structure being up to par, whether it would actually like, if I got an impact of any sort, we didn't want to lose any rigidity as far as, you know, safety. I don't want the whole front end just to crumple just because I want a different bumper. So originally they were thinking that they could just like notch out like the stock front bumper support, but that's not the case. So that whole big section has had to be removed, and they're gonna have to build like a custom piece. So that's good and bad, depending on how you look at it. So it's good in the fact that if I ever wanted to revert 100% back to a third 4th gen front bumper, 100% doable. So everything that has been taken off the car hasn't been tampered with, minus the cutting of the of the original bumper, but you could always get like another 3rd or 4th gen front bumper and make it back to original. So in that aspect, it's good. So everything will just be able to, all the Gen 5 crap will be able to bolt off, and you can bolt back on your old stock stuff. The bad, obviously, it's gonna take a little more time. So that's just a minor hang up in the grand scheme of things. Like, I know it's gonna be worthwhile and cheaper too, because instead of trying to like hack up the stock stuff, it's just honestly like cheaper and easier just to start from scratch. So he's gonna be making that out of aluminum. So that way we'll shed some weight there. It won't add too much to the car. But that way, yeah, the whole impact bar underneath, and this is all stuff you're not gonna be able to see, but it's gonna be made out of 100% aluminum. And you're probably thinking, well, aluminum is very thin and stuff like that, but like not that type of aluminum. There's different types, but we're using something that's very strong, I promise you. So that way, if I do, God forbid, end up in some type of fender bender, I'm not just gonna lose my whole front end. So he's rebuilding that whole structure. And with that structure, that's actually where your like bumper cover, so the Gen 5 bumper cover, that's where the mounting points are, is actually with that front like core support. So it's one of those where until you get that aluminum structure underneath made, you can't really necessarily fully mount the bumper and get it perfectly aligned until you've worked out the behind the bumper type stuff. So that's kind of where we are right now. He has to build that, and then he's kind of cut some of the sides out, so it's actually like tucked in nicely as far as like in front of the front tires. That we were kind of worried about that before, like it was kind of hanging too low and just didn't have like that nice flow into the side rockers. So he actually did like a relief cut, and it kind of tucked it in perfectly. And so, but there's gonna be a little bit of a gap between, because the Gen 5 bumper is wider than the Gen 4. So there's gonna be about that much space that kind of in the wheel well itself that needs to be filled in. So he's going to, and it's all gonna look factory. You won't really notice it, like unless you're really up close and personal. But even then, I mean, it's gonna look so good, or at least that's the hope. The goal is to look OEM. So when you look at the car, you're not gonna see anything stand outish. So he's going to make out of aluminum too, and then powder coat it black, so that way it blends with the wheel well, but just like a kind of inner fender liner. So that way it's just a smooth transition. You won't even notice if you do happen to, I don't know who looks at the wheel wells of cars like that, but if you do happen to look up in there, you have the wheel off, whatever, I take it in for some type of service, and they take the wheel off, you won't really even notice it. It's all gonna be nice and blended together. But that's the plan, to fill that gap. As far as the front bumper goes, that's sadly really all the progress that's been made. So last time we saw the car, it was riveted on. So he's removed the rivets, and because at that point, like it had like a ledge. So the Gen 5 front bumper was kind of like tucked, or the Gen 4 front bumper was tucked underneath the Gen 5 front bumper. So it had like a lip to it. So by adding those Cleco clips, like it's actually kind of pretty smooth. I mean, it's still got, he hasn't done the plastic welding yet, so that's where it'll be like buttery smooth, and you won't even notice any type of transition whatsoever. That lip will go away. But that way, as of right now with the Cleco clips on there, you can at least get the visual of what it's gonna look like. It's nice and smooth. There's not like a huge little lip sticking up to trick your eyes. I was able to take our AutoForm Track Attack rear spoiler up there, and we actually kind of like laid it up, did like a little test fit, which if you order from AutoForm, I was impressed with the quality before I actually saw it on the car. But I mean, it fits. It's so money on the car itself. Like even the painter that, you know, they're used to working with fiberglass and just a lot of things that don't fit really well, he was impressed with the fitment of it. So if you do order for AutoForm, yeah, the wait's really long, but the product you get is gonna fit perfectly. So he was pleased with the way it laid up there. I was actually very pleased with the way it looks, because hadn't really seen that many in person. I've seen pictures online, I like it, but seeing it on my actual car, yeah, I'm in love. So I think the plan is to actually, it's a satin black. So I think we're gonna actually take that same satin black and do that on the front grille itself. So that way it's kind of a uniform look, uniform black. So even though you'll never see the front and the back at the same time, just that way the peace of mind knowing it's all the same black. But I was excited to get that on, and like I said, I think it looks really, really good, and it's gonna be the cherry on top when we finally finish this project. Although this project isn't moving quite as quickly as I would want it to, I am still hyped for the final product, and I hope you all are too. If you have any questions, anything I might have missed, drop them in the comments below. But I really appreciate everybody watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, and we'll catch y'all in the next one.